The sun was setting, casting an eerie orange glow over the room. The wind was howling outside, the branches of the trees swaying wildly. Everyone in the college hostel was preparing for bed, the lights in their rooms already switched off. All was quiet, save for the occasional creaking of floorboards and the sound of laughter coming from the common room. But there was one room that remained in darkness. No one had seen the occupant in there for days. It was said that something was wrong with the room, something eerie and unnatural. Nina was an aromantic, a person who felt no romantic attraction to any other person. She had been living in the hostel for a few weeks now, and was growing increasingly anxious about the strange goings-on in the room. She had heard the other students talking about it, and it seemed that everyone was too scared to investigate. Finally, on a particularly dark and stormy night, Nina mustered the courage to enter the room. To her surprise, it was empty. The furniture was all there, but the occupant was nowhere to be seen. As she stepped further into the room, however, she noticed a chill in the air. It was like something was watching her. Nina shivered and looked around, trying to find the source of the feeling. Suddenly, she noticed something in the corner. It was a figure, shrouded in a long, dark robe. She could not make out its face, but she could feel its presence. Nina took a deep breath and spoke. "Who are you?" The figure didn't answer. Instead, it seemed to be getting closer. Nina felt a chill run down her spine as the figure approached her. As it did so, she noticed a faint, ghostly light coming from its eyes. Nina backed away, suddenly overcome with fear. She wanted to run, but she was rooted to the spot. The figure was now just inches away from her, but it still hadn't spoken. Suddenly, the figure spoke in a deep, hollow voice. "I am the ghost of this hostel. I have been here since the beginning, and I have watched as students have come and gone. I have seen them fall in love and break each other's hearts. But you, Nina, you are different. You don't feel the same way as them. You are aromantic." Nina felt a wave of relief wash over her. She hadn't expected this ghost to understand her. She looked into its eyes and realized that it was not here to hurt her. The ghost continued, "I can see that you are a good person, Nina. You have a kind and gentle heart. I want to help you. I want to show you a way out of this place. Will you accept my help?" Nina nodded, her fear now replaced with hope. The ghost smiled, and with a wave of its hand, the door to the room opened. Nina stepped out of the room and into the darkness of the night. She could still feel the ghost's presence, but it was no longer a menacing one. She was filled with a feeling of peace, as if she had been released from a prison. Nina walked away from the hostel, never looking back. From that moment on, her life was changed forever. She had been given a second chance, and she was determined to make the most of it. The ghost of the hostel had showed her a way out of the darkness, and she was determined to never return.
Please subscribe my channel, do like and comment.
The sun had just begun to set, casting a warm orangey-red light over the grassy fields of the college campus. The students had all gone home for the day, leaving the hostel eerily quiet. Jenny was one of the few who had stayed behind. She had been looking forward to a peaceful evening alone in her room, but as she passed through the corridors of the hostel, she couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. She had been warned about the rumors of a ghost living in the hostel, but she had never expected to feel the presence of the supernatural so strongly. She quickened her pace, eager to reach the safety of her bedroom. But as she entered the stairwell, she heard a faint sound. It sounded like a whisper coming from the shadows of the staircase. Jenny froze in fear, her heart pounding against her chest. Suddenly, a figure appeared from the shadows. It was a woman, dressed all in white, with long dark hair and an ethereal beauty about her. She looked right at Jenny and smiled, her eyes full of sorrow and regret. "Please, help me," she said in a whisper, her voice barely audible. Jenny was too afraid to move, but the ghostly woman slowly began to drift away, fading into the shadows. Jenny was too scared to investigate further, so she ran back to her room and locked the door. She quickly turned on a lamp and buried her face in her pillow, trying to calm her racing heart. For the next few days, Jenny was too scared to leave her room. She heard whispers coming from the hallway and occasionally heard the ghostly woman call out for help. Finally, Jenny mustered up the courage to talk to the other students in the hostel. They all had similar stories to tell. They had all heard the ghostly woman asking for help. The students were all too scared to investigate further, so they asked the college to call in a paranormal investigator. The investigator arrived the next day and soon discovered the truth behind the ghostly woman. It turned out that the ghostly woman was a former student of the college who had committed suicide in a hostel many years ago. The investigator explained that the ghost was unable to move on because she was still in search of something. He asked the students to help her find it. The students searched the hostel and eventually found a box hidden in one of the rooms. Inside the box was a letter written by the ghostly woman before her death. In the letter, the woman explained that she had been in love with a man, but had never been able to tell him. She asked the students to pass the letter on to him so that he would finally understand how she felt. The letter was passed on, and the ghostly woman was finally able to move on. The students never heard from her again, but they never forgot her story. It was a reminder of how powerful love can be even after death.
Please subscribe my channel, do like and comment.
And the wind was rustling through the hostel. The hostel was an old building, built in the late 19th century, and was said to be haunted by a ghost. The students of the college had heard the rumors and had started to avoid the hostel, and the few students who were still brave enough to stay were now living in fear. The ghost was said to be that of a young woman who had died in the building in the late 1800s. She was said to be the daughter of the hostel's founder, and she had committed suicide in the building after a failed love affair. Her spirit was said to wander the hostel, searching for her lost love. She was often seen in the corridors and rooms of the hostel, and was said to have an aura of sadness around her. One night, at around 9 p.m., a student named Mead was walking through the hostel. Mead was an aromantic and was uninterested in the rumors of the ghost. However, as he was walking through the corridors, he could sense a presence following him. At first, he thought it was just his imagination, but as he continued walking, he felt the presence getting closer and closer. He quickened his pace, but the feeling of being followed did not leave him. He could feel a chill running down his spine, and his heart was pounding. Finally, he reached his room, and as he opened the door, he could see the ghostly figure of the young woman standing in the corner. She was dressed in a white gown with a veil covering her face. Her long dark hair was flowing down her back, and her eyes were filled with sadness. Mead was frozen in fear. He could not move. The ghost slowly stepped forward and reached out her hand to him. In a soft, gentle voice, she said, "My love, I have come to take you away with me." Mead was speechless. He did not know what to do. The ghost reached out her hand again, and as Mead took it, he found himself being pulled into a world of eternal darkness. Mead was never seen again. The other students in the hostel were scared, and no one dared to stay in the building after dark. The ghost of the young woman had taken her lost love away with her, and the hostel was now haunted with her sorrow.
Please subscribe my channel, do like and comment.